Hi, I'm Mia from Flipboard, and I'm here with Chip Conley.
It's good to be here with you.
Thank you for being here. Chip is Airbnb's head of global hospitality and strategy, as well as an author, entrepreneur, and speaker. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
So this is a wonderful event. Why is it important to have an event like this?
Well, we live in an era where I think the more digital we get, the more ritual we need, and ritual is about being in I think one form of ritual is to be in person. And so we have URLs and we have IRLs, and IRLs are the in real life experiences. And Airbnb is an in real life experience because people actually meet each other on the road. But there aren't that many opportunities for you to bring everybody together.
Right.
And so we have hosts and guests from over 100 countries here. And it's more of a festival than a conference. I like festivals, and you do too. And the idea was to do something that actually was quite immersive. And so it's so far so good.
And what's your message to the people here?
Well, first of all, we have announced a whole new part of the hosting experience and the guest experience, which is trips. So when a person actually goes to a place and actually experiences it, they can do it through our platform now. In the past, it was just accommodations. And so what's beautiful is it's, as a host, you can say, wow, I could host someone in my extra bedroom, but I also could host someone because I'm a potter, and I can take them out to my pottery wheel and have 6 people come pot with me on a Saturday and make some money doing that too. So I think the idea that hosting can be a noble profession, and a 16-year-old in high school can say to their mother or father, when I grow up, I want to be a host. It's not something we actually knew could exist before, but I think with Airbnb you could do that.
And what makes for good hospitality? Like, why is it important to make people feel like they belong?
Hospitality is a combination of art and science. The science piece is just getting the things right, knowing, making sure you don't make mistakes in terms of check-in and check-out for your guests. But the art of it's the beauty of it, and that's where you get to know people and have an empathy for them. I say hospitality is a generosity of spirit from the heart, which really means that you're there to actually help someone feel appreciated and loved. And we say the magic of Airbnb is turning strangers into friends.
And how can people, for whom maybe that doesn't come naturally, how can they cultivate that?
Sometimes a person might be an introvert and they need to have their own space, and that's fine. And in fact, even in a listing as an Airbnb host, you can actually say, you're going to be staying out in my cottage in the backyard. Usually I'm pretty private, so you're welcome to come and send me a text, but I have my own space, and that level of clarity can actually create a better experience. I think for many people, the thing that they just need to remember is that that empathy about what's it like being on the road.
Yeah.
We all have done that, and it can be tiring, and it can be sort of disorienting. But when there's somebody on the other end that you're going and visiting, and they give you that sense of having a friend there, it really is. It actually isn't just great for the guests. It fills you up as a host.
And what's something that you've learned from your community that maybe you hadn't thought of before?
I think the idea that there's many entrepreneurs in 191 countries, the fact that people do this. I think when I first joined almost 4 years ago, there was a little bit of a sense of like, well, there's maybe certain parts of the world where culturally home sharing wouldn't work. Well, so far, actually, it works everywhere. Yeah. Some places caught on more quickly. Asia took a little bit longer to catch on. It's now by far our fastest growing region in the world. So I actually think that that's part of it. I also think there's a growing number of people who are global nomads.
Yeah.
They don't have a home. They don't have a mortgage. They don't actually have a residential lease. They live on the road. They've got one of those devices you have in your hand or a laptop. They work in a freelance capacity. And they can say, you know what, I'm going to go spend 2 months in Bali, and while I'm there, I'm going to stay in an Airbnb. So I had, as a hotelier for 30 years, I hadn't really thought about the fact that, gosh, where do you stay if you want to stay somewhere for a week to 3 months? Longer than that, you might get a lease. Shorter than that, you might stay in a hotel. But a week to 3 months is a growing number of people's lifestyle. Wow.
Where do you like to go, and how do you like to travel?
Love Bali. I have a home in Baja, so any B word that starts with, that's got 4 letters. Bali, Baja, I do love Marrakesh, Morocco, and Morocco in general. Frankly, I love new places. So, I'm going to go to Northern Lights in January. I'm going to Stockholm for the first time, giving a speech there. And because I'm going in January, which a lot of people would say, "Ooh, you're going to Stockholm in January?" I was like, "No, I'm going to go do Northern Lights up at the Arctic Circle."
Very, very cool. What inspires you?
Stories, people's storytelling, character over circumstances. When I see somebody who's like persevered against all odds and made it work, not just as an entrepreneur, but just in a relationship, in one's own relationship with themselves.
What are some of your learnings from some of the books that you've written?
So I've written 4 books, and I'll just a theme on each briefly would be The Rebel Rules is about how to be an entrepreneur and daring to be yourself in business. Marketing That Matters is about how do you go out and create a great company but also change the world at the same time. Peak is really about, it's a psychology book. It's about how do you use Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pyramid, in an organizational context and help people move up to their peak experiences at the top of the pyramid. And Emotional Equations is a psychology book, and it's my way of trying to create logic around my emotions, such that, for example, anxiety has 2 ingredients. It's uncertainty and powerlessness. And it's not a plus, it's a times. So anxiety equals uncertainty times powerlessness. Once you have some level of understanding of the ingredients of your emotions, when something comes up, you can actually use the logic of the equation to help either amplify it if it's curiosity or love, or suppress it if it's, despair or anxiety.
Seems like you've figured out so much. Like, what are some areas where you'd love to explore more?
I am waiting for the love of my life. I've had 2 long relationships, one for 11 years, one for 8 years. I've been single for 7 years. Both of my relationships were good. Neither one was like the soulmate. And maybe that's a high standard that I'm looking for. But I think understanding what makes for a beautiful, long-lived relationship is interesting for me. And seeing that in my friends. So yeah, that's one thing.
Also, you do so much. Like, how do you find time for it all and balance?
I do a lot of meditation. So I meditate twice a day, morning and evening, and it actually centers me such that it allows me to have a lot more energy than I'd have otherwise. I also do take a lot of time to myself. I have a writing cottage in my backyard. I love hanging out there on weekends. So I have a good dose of being very engaged with people, and also having some alone time.
And so Flipboard is all about your passions. You've touched on them, but if you had to summarize what your passions are, what would you say?
My passion is curiosity. My passion is going out and learning something new. I'm 56 years old. I'm learning Spanish. I'm learning how to surf. There's a sense that life is when you have a sense of curiosity in life, there's an openness. It's the opposite of depression. Depression is when you sort of get narrow. And so I think the thing that keeps me inspired by life is knowing that there's a whole lot of things I don't know, and going out and learning about them.
And the last question is, like, what advice would you give to others who are kind of looking for their passions and their purpose in life?
Go back to look at who you were at age 6. Sometimes you can actually find the roots of something that you're good at, naturally talented at, something that you're passionate about from the things that you were natural at. I have a friend, she was a lawyer for many years. She wasn't really loving it. We did a little exercise. I said, "What's the thing you love doing the most?" She said, "I loved making little mud pies. And then I'd dry them, and then I'd put little things on top that were like, little candies on top. And of course you wouldn't eat a mud pie." And I said, "Well, have you ever thought about being a pastry chef?" She said, I love having dinner parties, mostly so that people can have my pastries at the end. Why don't you go to cooking school? Why don't you actually go to... And she did. And she quit being a lawyer, and now she's a pastry chef. So sometimes you got to go back to look at what is that thing from childhood that, lit you up and helped you to lose track of time.
Great. Thank you so much for your time, Chip.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Nice to meet
you. Thank you.